Welcome to the Have You Met You podcast. I'm your host, Sasha Pearl, the energy architect, and I guide soul-led women in building authentic six-figure businesses by aligning their identity, message, and branding. So let's get into it. Today on the pod, we have Lyndsay Lee. She is an entrepreneur for the last 14 years. She's been in branding and marketing for the last 24 years, and she's never had a traditional job. So we're going to go over her origin story. We're going to go over all of her intuitive gifting. We're going to go over her energy. We're going to go over manifestation, and we are going to dive deep into all of these really fun projects. Okay, I'm so excited to be here today. We have my bestie, Lyndsay Lee, here on the pod with us. So we are so excited to dive deep into everything that you do. So just give us a little bit of a rundown of what it is that you do and how you describe yourself in the world.
What a big question to start out with. Wow. I want to start by saying I'm so stoked to be here. This is awesome. I think that especially female podcasters, are so important in the world. And that kind of leads into like what I do and what I'm here for is really, if it boils down to one thing, I'm here for the girlies. Like I am here for the girlies to thrive and be self-expressed and be completely liberated in this lifetime. Because I think, well, one, like we could go back and say, we've had not a lot of advantages, right? There is the patriarchal systems that we're fighting against and all of that, but I don't really want to go there. What I really care for is women finding who they are at the core and then learning how to put that in the world, right? If we're talking about business and monetization, what we actually need to figure out and talk about first is who the fuck are we and what is our zone of joy, right? People talk all day long about zone of genius, which I think is really important, but zone of joy is more important and less talked about. And so I'm really here for self-expression at its core and whatever that might mean in the world. On a practical level, what that means is something like a personal brand, which I have run a personal brand since around 2016. I like to say that I accidentally started a personal brand in 2016. By 2018, it was fully monetized online, and I've been doing it ever since. And here we are in 2026, and I've been teaching other women how to monetize personal brands since around 2020, let's say. So really at the heart of the matter is personal brand, self-expression, woman first, monetization strategy, and business second.
I love that. You're really empowering women in this world to be, I always say, fully expressed in the world, and you're showing people how to do that. So I would love to hear more about how well, there's two things I want to learn more about right now. I want to know how you accidentally started a brand in 2016, first of all. And secondly, I want you to dive more into this idea of zone of joy. I feel like that's something that the listeners are going to be really interested in because, to your point, zone of genius is like the market, the jargon of the world these days. So what is it? What does it mean to really find that zone of joy? So let's start with, how did you accidentally start your personal brand in 2016?
Yeah, great. So it's kind of a winding story, and I'll make the points clear. So I have worked for myself in some form or fashion for about 14, 15 years now. Even before that, like I have literally never had a traditional job. I've never had a 9 to 5. I've never had a job that fits into quote unquote what society tells us to do. I did opt in to going to college. I genuinely wanted to go to college. But I remember probably my sophomore or junior year, I remember standing in the middle of campus and calling my dad and saying, Dad, all this stuff is really stupid. I just want to learn what I want to learn. Like, why can't I just learn what I want to learn? And my father, being like one of my original best friends and one of the biggest champions of my life, said to me, Well, figure out how you can do the bare minimum of what they require, and then the rest of it play in and do whatever you want. And that's kind of how my parents raised both my brother and I. We're so lucky to have come from a home where we had parents who never told us to like be realistic. Like, fuck that. They were both also entrepreneurs, and so was my grandfather. So I come from a line of people who I guess you could say never really fit into a traditional box. And so from that moment on campus, I remember just thinking, yeah, like I actually can do whatever I want if I play the game a little bit. And I think that's a really important thing to note. If you there I always like to say there's no rules, but or you can make up your own rules, and I really believe that you can. Like there are no fucking rules. What rules are you playing by? Like to think outside of the rules that you think you're meant to be in and just define rules for yourself. And so in that moment, I thought if I play their game a little bit, because I'm willingly here, I want to be here, and I want a degree, then I can play with everything else I have. And I think that that's a really cool line to be in, a really cool understanding to have. And so from that moment forward, I kind of got stronger in my belief that I really actually could do whatever I want. And so fast forward from that, I was in a graduate program. So I was getting my master's degree, and the subject, my master's degree is in social justice. So the subject was quite heavy, like really heavy. I like to say in a past life, I worked in nonprofit and it was beautiful work, but it sort of destroyed me. And so I got this opportunity to go to this school, get this master's degree. It was a very like niche university at the time. And at the tail end of it, I remember being so tired, so bogged down, just so like, what the fuck is this? And I needed to get back to this joy that I'd always had in my life to one degree or another. And through channels that I don't really need to go into, I got an opportunity to live and work in Bali. Now, this was in 2015. So, Bali in 2015 was not what Bali is today in 2026. It was a lot less blown up, I guess, if you will. And so I'm a person that believes that we should just go for it. Like, I believe that women overthink decisions way too fucking much, and they really actually need to just take action first, and then clarity will come. And so I got this opportunity, and they said, "Hey, do you want to come out and live and work in Bali?" And I was like, "Yeah." Now, mind you, I was still in the master's program. I was finishing my thesis, which is, if you know, it's like you're working 14 hours a day and like you're broke and everything is cold and sucks. And so I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Secondarily, I didn't really know what the job was. Like this part of it is so insane. I like didn't really know what I would be doing, but I said yes anyway because I had a ping of understanding that I would regret it forever if I said no. So I said yes before I understood even how to do it, what it was about, what it would entail, etc. So I start to figure out more about the experience, and long story short, it was in the health and wellness world. And I had been chronically ill for 13 years of my life. And I had healed myself through a lot of health and wellness practices. And so I will say, I was decently qualified to teach at this point. And basically, they said, you need to go to this school in Florida and learn how to be a colon hydrotherapist from this woman who's like the best in the world. And I was like, yep, sick. All right, cool. I'd never had a colonic before. I didn't even really know what it was. And I got my ass on a plane like literally 4 weeks later and took this course from this woman in Florida. And then about probably 3 or 4 months after that, I was on a plane to Bali. I'd sold all my possessions. I was pieced out. I was going to Bali with an open-ended idea of what that might look like. And now here's where the accidental personal brand comes in, right? And I've painted a picture for you of my life and who I am and my beliefs so far. And all of that is important to know up to this point. Because if you have world understanding, if you have life experience, you already have a personal brand. And this is what a lot of women do not understand. Anyone listening right now, I guarantee you already have a personal brand. You're like 80% of the way there. All you need is a little bit of form, structure, and understanding. And so my life experiences up to this point led me into quote unquote accidentally starting a brand, which really meant that when I was living in Bali in 2015 and 16, I started sharing my life online. And then I guess people liked it. So people came along for the journey and they started asking me questions and yada yada. And next thing you know, it's 2016 and I have a minimal mind you, like this following is still low. Like at this point it was under 2,000 people. And I want people to understand that as well, because you don't need a massive following. What you need is engaged followers. Those are two massively different things. So if you have engaged followers who are bought into who you are and what you stand for and your own self-expression, there is nothing that you can't do or monetize. So in 2016, I was like, oh, this is cool. And like, also everybody thinks I'm living in paradise. And like, I don't really want to live here full time. And the studio, I was basically working at one of the most well-known retreat centers in the world, which also is hilarious because before I showed up, I literally didn't know anything about it. And the day that I got there and was walking around, I was like, oh, this is like a big deal. Like, oh shit, like, okay, like, and that to me is again hilarious because I did not need to know that before I got there. And I will say that when I moved to Bali, I had already previously moved to two different countries for long amounts of time. We're talking like year or more. I had lived in Australia twice in my life for long periods of time and New Zealand. I had already done the move abroad thing, but Bali scared the shit out of me because it was another level of me that I had to get to. And it was another level of my career I had to get to. Now, I'm in 2016. Everybody's loving this apparent brand that I have online. But in 2016, we didn't really call them personal brands. We just sort of followed people that we liked. It honestly was even kind of pre-influencer. I wouldn't even say I was an influencer. But the important piece here is that I kept building even when I didn't have a roadmap and even when I couldn't see the future. Because in 2016, I had a really difficult decision to make. I knew I didn't want to live in Bali full time. And the yoga barn was like throwing money at me. They were trying to throw the department at me. They were trying to triple my salary. Like literally, they did not want me to leave. And there was something in me that said, I have to go. Because even though this is paradise for some people, this is not ultimately where I want to stay. And this is not ultimately my calling. And so once again, I was faced with something really scary. I had to leave all of that behind. And in that moment, I said to myself, I know that I can do whatever this is online without seeing clients in real life. I knew I had to leave behind the actual colonics part of it, but in terms of seeing clients and helping people through things, like I knew I could do that part. So I moved home and in probably like, let's say the whole of 2017, I built what did not exist. And I knew that I could see clients online, I could have an impact, and somehow I was going to take this, what we now know as a personal brand, and make something of value out of it. And by 2018, it was fully monetized and I was doing it full time. So, um, I think people really need to understand that they're 80% there already and they're just holding themselves back by their own respectfully bullshit and fear.
I couldn't agree more. I think that we don't give ourselves enough credits for the life that we have lived and for the things that we have experienced. So I feel that so deeply. I do want to come back to the energetics that we I did not bring up in the beginning here. Lyndsay is a 5-2 manifester with emotional authority. So when she's like, I'm going to go do it my own way, and no, I don't want to do it this way, and I'm going to do it my way and do this and do that and do that. Like, this is like a true manifester actually living in their authenticity. So when we come back to this story, I feel like, how old were you in 2016?
Uh, thir- I had just I turned 30 on a Friday. I graduated with a master's degree that Saturday, and then I moved to Bali a couple months later.
Okay, so you're like straight up in your Saturn return as well. What I love though, and what I want to bring this back to is the fact that you literally trusted, you use the word pings, but your intuition. You knew, yeah, they're putting a dream on a platter, but this platter is not mine. This is dream is not mine. So I find it really interesting. Like, how did you know to trust? Have you always known to trust your intuition in moments like that? Because this is your legacy, this is your life that was on the line there. So what is your relationship to those intuitive knowings, intuitive pings that you have?
That's such a good question. Honestly, I if I'm honest, I don't think I've ever really thought about it too much in terms of like, I have just inherently always had the bones of trust in my body. Now, that does come with a trade off. Like, there have been times where I've trusted and then I've had to pivot or whatever. And then the other trade off as well is my mother always used to say that I was not born with a bone of patience in my body. So I think I got like the trust bones and like zero patience bones. And so there's always a trade-off, right? So like I think part of it too is that like I'm an incredibly impatient person. And one of my like life mottos and life beliefs is that we should just fucking go for it because we don't have as much time as we think we do. I have what I would call a very strong and positive relationship to death. I've had a lot of death in my life, and I remember the first time that I really had to process a death. I was very young, and I've had a lot of death with people who are very close to me. And while that has in ways really like crushed me, I think it has also shown me the invaluable piece of life, which is that we must live it. And I know that sounds like so cliche, but it's kind of true.
No, I mean, I've also have experience with, people close to me and death, and my drive in this world is to live a life I'm not settled in, right? Like,
Oh,
it's a driving force.
that I just got goosebumps because something that I always think about is that I am never, like, never catch me in a life where I fit into a box. Never catch me in a life where I have settled. Never catch me in a life where I say, this is good enough. I remember actually, there's an important piece of my life and an experience that happened to me about 13 years ago, but I was, I was it was still 13, 14 years ago, maybe. It was still kind of back in the day where I was in the nonprofit world. I was helping organize Occupy Portland when there were massive protests everywhere. And I was kind of in this phase of my life where I knew I wanted to impact the world. I was just doing it wrong. And this comes back to energetics because I don't think that you know until you know. Like, I wanted to impact the world. Come to find out, later down the line when I'm like burnt out and tired and have no joy and I'm just like white as a ghost, I was doing it wrong. And I wouldn't say wrong in terms of like I don't regret anything that I chose back then. I mean wrong as in like it didn't work for my energetics and I didn't know that.
Mhm.
And I had this moment. I had been dating someone who actually proposed marriage to me 10 days after we knew each other. And I do still believe, like, I believe he's one of my soulmates, and he is definitely not my soulmate in this life, but he was a soulmate to come so that we could finish a karmic loop together. And I don't really talk about him ever. Honestly, I don't even know if I've ever really talked about this publicly, but he proposed to me 10 days after we knew each other, and I said yes. And then we didn't he later proposed later, like with a ring and all the things. It was a very short-lived engagement, like so short, probably like a month or two. But in this moment after he had proposed, we'd been living together, and there was a lot of heaviness and darkness in our lives, and it was so pressing. And I remember us getting in an argument, standing in our living room, and he was really mad at me, and I remember really just not feeling seen at all, like, not even just in that moment, but in, like, the whole entire relationship. And then this makes me emotional to think about, and it's something that scares the shit out of me because from now I look at this and I'm like, I've made a promise to that girl that I will never do this again. But he was so mad at me, and I was trying to explain something to him, and then I was frustrated, and back then I was very, very afraid of my own anger. And so I wouldn't let myself get angry. And in that moment, I got very angry, and I started kind of lashing back at him. And I remember thinking to myself, it's okay. I'll just give up parts of myself to make this work. And that is like the biggest betrayal that I could ever think of, is for a woman to give up parts of her because she has convinced herself it would be easier to not have those parts be alive in the world to make something work, whether it's a relationship or a job or a way they're going about something or a living situation, or it doesn't really matter what it is. But in that moment, I remember being really afraid of my own anger, but more so understanding that that's just devastating. And so many women do that.
Mhm. Well, I almost just started crying, so that was great. But that is the truth of our, society, our reality, and, like, growing up as little girls in the 80s and 90s, like, that is a truth, and that's what we get to decondition, from now moving into, 2027, which is actually a huge energetic shift in all of consciousness. So it's almost like we had to be there to know what is actually possible when we are living in our own light, when we're not giving up parts of ourselves either. And so when we come back to your energy, you mentioned anger, which is a not self theme for a manifester. So, as far as your timeline goes in business and where you were at on your personal journey and self discovery, because it seems like a lot of stuff actually really unfolded the more risks that you took on yourself. So, at what point in your journey did you find out you were a manifester?
Oh man, late. late late on the journey, let me
Like,
tell you. First
you
of
knew
all,
it when I first met you.
yeah, yeah, I mean, like, not probably until the last handful of years. I'm 41 at this point. Like, I've been doing this for a long time and I didn't know really. But something that I want to touch on that's really important is the anger piece for any manifestors who are listening. This is like really key, but also think about this. This applies to every woman. Is anger doesn't always show up as anger, especially if we have been conditioned and it's no one's fault. My parents were amazing. But again, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. Like, I was supposed to be a good girl. I was supposed to fucking stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and like sit down and like be cute and skinny. And, like there was a lot that was thrown at us. And I will say, I don't blame anybody for that. However, I did not have a relationship with my anger until I was legitimately in my 30s. Like, until really when I was living in Bali at 30 and 31 years old. And subsequently after that, when I moved back, I went to and from the island 1 to 3 times a year for multiple like weeks or months at a time for like 5 years. So in total, I've spent about 2.5 years on the island. And Mother Bali is called Fire Island for a reason. She's very fiery, and so I do not think that it's a mistake that I healed my relationship with anger when I was on Fire Island, the mother of all mothers, right? But something that's important to note is when you have been conditioned to not feel safe in the quote unquote harder emotions or the worst emotions, right? Like anger. Like I didn't feel safe to be angry because there was no space that actually told me anger was fine. And so anger for me for many years didn't actually show up as anger. It showed up as sadness. And so women have to really, manifestor or not, you have to look at the emotion that is on the surface. And then you have to ask yourself what the actual emotion is underneath it. It's what I would refer to, and not just me, but Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote The Women Who Run with the Wolves, talks about this concept a lot in her book. But it's something I reference in my coaching and my teaching a lot is we need to get to the river under the river, which is to say, there is a surface level that is happening in your life, and then there is a current that is happening underneath that surface. So on the surface, I was a very joyful kid. This is why I like to talk about zone of joy. I was a very naturally joyful kid. I fucking loved my childhood. Like a lot of really hard stuff happened to me when I was a young teen and in my teens and 20s, but my childhood was wonderful and I was very joyful. I am a very naturally joyful person. Now, when you take that and then you combine it with the energetic of not understanding and not feeling safe in anger, it will almost 10 out of 10 times express itself as sadness, depression, or malaise. And so now I know that when I feel those feelings, I can actually check in with myself and I can say, like, is this actually depression? Or is there like an undercurrent of anger because I'm out of alignment or because I'm not doing something that I know I want to be doing? Right. And so I think it's important in human design. I love that we have not self themes, but I don't think they're black and white. And I think that's important.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's like it's like, what does anger actually mean to you specifically, right? Instead of like a
Mm,
generalized anger, I think it's a good anchor point. And then it's like, well, what does that anger mean to you? Like, what does that for you? It's like, or in your earlier years, it was sadness, right? And that's how that was like manifesting out into the world, right? And that can be so different for everyone else. Like, especially as projector, like, what does success actually mean to
mm,
me? Right. And so it's just like you have to define these because it's like it's like when you have a dream dictionary, right? You're like, oh, if I see water, it means this, right? And it's like you get to create like what that gauge is depending on your not self and then your signature self as well. So I love that.
mm.
Yeah. Also, I just don't really believe in black and white. Do you?
Girl,
I really love gray.
I'm
50
like,
Shades of Gray hair here.
not like I've gone against the grain my whole life. And I think that there is a piece of that. And again, I think there is a piece of that that has gotten me very far. It's gotten me up to this point, pretty much everything I've ever wanted. And it has, at times, it has left me with some cleaning up to do. I have made peace with the cleaning up because I actually don't think it's bad. This is the thing that I see a lot of women do in my years and years of coaching. I see a lot of women putting things in the camp of bad or good and not understanding that those don't really have to exist. Like, it's our relationship to the thing. It isn't just, oh, oops, I moved here and it didn't really like work out. I think I made a mistake. Like that isn't, it doesn't have to be defined as a bad thing. And I find that women do this a lot because women can be, if we haven't stepped into our fullest, most powerful, authentic self, we're very afraid of the parts of us that are craving to come out and be expressed. There's like a
Mhm.
fear around being the bigness of who we are. And again, I think part of that is going back to conditioning, and part of it is the world we live in, and part of it is very human. But we have to start recognizing that fear for what it is and say, I'm kind of fucking over that. Like, what would happen? I like to play this game a lot with my clients where I say, like, okay, I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? And I just really actually do it on purpose in a way that's very nonchalant, because it'll break the pattern immediately. Because when somebody is saying, like, oh, I got to make this decision and this thing and it costs this much money, and like, I'm just like, all right, I'm like, what is the worst that's gonna happen? And then a client will often kind of like be stunned for a second and maybe like giggle a little bit, and I'm like, no, I'm actually serious. Like, let's fucking go. Like, what is the worst that's going to happen to you if you choose to invest in XYZ? And then we go into it. And this is a tool that you can use in your own life with something that you are on the fence about, or if there's internal conflict. Internal conflict is the biggest killer of magnetism ever. And so when you've got any amount of internal conflict, your magnetism isn't coming through. So I give you full permission to play the, like, what's the worst that can happen game, because often two things will happen. One, you'll start to be like, well, I don't know, like, I'll just put it on a credit card, and then, and then it starts to become silly. And then the other thing that could potentially happen is you go all the way into your primal body, where you understand equating something to death, right? Like being ostracized from the tribe, and like you're gonna die. And then you can make that a little bit silly as well. And when we do that, we break patterns in our brains. So we need to, there's this, what's the thing people always say, like, it's not that serious, right? And it's like, yeah, actually everything is really serious, but it's not that fucking serious. And when you realize that, again, there's nothing you won't be able to do.
Mhm. Don't you say you quote this a lot too, is everything's just made up anyways?
Yeah, everything's made up. Like, what is going on? Like, everything is made up. Like, what rules are you following? And like,
Well,
if you don't like the rules, make other rules.
wait, and I love that. If you don't like the rules, make other rules. And this brings it back into choice. And I want to go back to your initial story with your ex and being in anger and being like, well, I could lose parts of myself to like please you,
Mm.
etc. In that moment of choice, because you obviously didn't choose that, what else, when you said, I'm not choosing that, I make my own rules, what was on the other side of that choice?
Mm. It's interesting because I'm trying to answer that question honestly from her point of view, not mine, who I am now. And I think what she was thinking was that there was no other choice, because okay, there's this part of me that had decided that that was the path. That was it.
Mm,
That was decided for me. If I loved this person and they proposed to me after 10 days, well, they must be it. And then because I had said yes, then I couldn't say no. Or we were already living together. Like, it was almost as if there was a part of me that decided, like, oops, I already decided this, so it's the only way. And I think that I wasn't thinking that there were other options, even though, and I think that that can be really common, but there's always options. And now and I'm going to ask my own question, or answer my own question, is what would I say to her now? Like, what would my 41-year-old self say to her at 27? And what I would say is, there's always another way. Like, even if there's only one other way, there is always another way. Now, mind you, I am now the type of person who believes that there are like a million ways. There's so many things that I could have chosen in that moment. But what I would say to somebody who is grappling with a decision or kind of like on a path is maybe zoom out a little bit and ask yourself, is there like another way? Like, is there a way that I could do this that would actually bring me more into my zone of joy? Is there
Mhm.
another way that I could feel more self expressed? Is there another way where I wouldn't have to give up parts of me and just decide that was it? And interestingly enough, when we ended that short lived engagement, and I took the ring off my finger and I set it on the nightstand. I'll never forget this. And he said to me, he was sitting across the room, and he said to me, "I cannot marry you because I will take your light away from you." And
Oof,
in
chill.
my life, other people later, when I was honest about that with people in my life, they all tried to tell me that that was just his excuses and blah, blah, blah. But in the moment he said it to me, I 10,000% understood what he meant. And I respected the shit out of him for it, because it wasn't about our karmic cycle. It wasn't about our energetics. It wasn't about our love. It wasn't about following through with a decision. It was the fact that he respected me enough to say, I don't want to kill the thing inside of you that I know I will kill. And that day, I packed everything up that was mine in our apartment. I went back to my parents' house. This is a fun story that leads into founding my first company. But I packed everything up and I took it back to my parents' house. And at the time, my brother was founding the company that would then become part of a founder in. But he was founding it with his best friend from college, and they had also moved back in with my parents. And my brother's business partner, co-founder at the time, was literally living in the bedroom that used to be mine. So it was like my parents' room and then Kayvon's room and then my brother's room. And I come home and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm sleeping on the couch. So I'm sleeping on the couch. I'm recently broken up with, and like, thank God. And I wake up the next morning with everything I own around me in my parents' front room. And the very first feeling I felt was relief. And I will never forget that feeling. And in that moment, I can say now that in that moment, I made a promise to myself to never let myself feel anything but that again.
I love that. I feel like it's moments like that that are actually very pivotal in building the identity of who we are in this very moment, right? That past version who's 27 is still in this current version of your 41 self. And it's because of her and her bravery and her courage for making that decision that you get to be who you are right now. And that's
Hey, I
what
had a spiritual teacher who I met and um had a not only a lot of sessions with in Bali, but then became really good friends with. And she was quite a bit older than me, very wise woman. And she always used to say, "You're every age you've ever been." And until
oof,
I met her, I had never heard that before. And I remember just being like, I was like 30 at the time, and some really, I had 13 years of sickness in my body. I had a lot of really hard family stuff happen. I had but then I had the joy of my childhood. I had all of that in my body. And I remember sitting on the floor in her office and her saying, "Well, Lyndsay, you are every age you've ever been." And me just thinking, oh, like that is the most insane thought I've ever had to date. But it allowed me the permission to understand my life as if it was like a really intricate, layered sandwich of people instead of
a layered sandwich. I love that.
yeah, it's like it's not just who I am now. It's not
Mhm.
just my identity now. If somebody meets me at 41, they might only have one context of me, but I carry with me every woman, girl, child that I've ever been. And I work every single day. Like, this is part of the reason why I'm so committed to creativity and expression. And, I have found at this point, I have founded or co-founded 5 companies and 1 nonprofit. There's ideas galore. Like, I have things that I want to put out into the world. And a lot of people think that that's really crazy. I think it's just doing it for the kids I used to be. Like, I'm healing my teen self. I'm making art. I'm putting stuff into the world, and I'm doing it for every age I've ever been, not just who I am now.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's like so incredibly important. Even if we think about lineage too, and everyone, your mother, your grandmother, like every single age of who we are is so important to also love and accept. And that's something that I've been like really grappling with because I've changed my name last year and I'm like, "Oh yeah, now I'm just Sasha." And I'm like, I'm getting my ass kicked
Yeah.
by Lindsay right now. And it's been really fascinating. And so I just wanted to like bring that piece back in because it's like I think if you were to have said that line to me, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course." But
Yeah.
now, in this very moment with the lived experiences that I've had, I'm like, "Oh my fucking god. We get to celebrate every fucking age we've ever fucking been in the
Yeah.
hard, in the
How
dark,
cool.
in the light,
How
in the
cool.
happy How cool." And because
And
when
he
we think
and
about
here's the thing. I don't know if you've told this part of the story, but I'm gonna just tell a quick little anecdote on Sasha changing her name from Lindsay, and why this is such a neat concept when you just decide to believe different things, right? So when I say it's serious, but it's not that serious. So this was, I don't even know how long ago this was because she's Sasha to me now, but I knew Sasha, formerly known as Lindsay, for years before she was Sasha. And she kind of, like, I would say, would be one of the people in my life who was like instantly, I knew she was going to be one of my best friends, like a lifer. And she called me when some stuff was going on. It was like she was gonna change her Instagram handle or something. And I don't know. She called me and basically was like gonna jump off the deep end, like
I was
just
crashing out. I was crashing out. I did not wanna call myself "It's Lindsay Freeman" on Instagram for a fucking personal brand. It was
crashing,
the dumbest thing ever. Anyway, she talked me out
crashing
of
out. And here's the thing. I'm she calls me, I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer as one of her best friends, but in this moment she said, "I need your branding expertise." And I was like, "Let's get it, girl. Like, I've been in this forever." Put my little like branding fucking founder's hat on, and I said, "What?" And she said, "I'm having this whole dilemma with my name and like, what do I change it to?" And I said, honestly, without even giving it a thought, I said, "Well, why don't you just change your name then?" And it was as if the the rules of life broke and shattered into 1,000 pieces in that moment. And neither one of us could have known that before it then started to waterfall and like things started shifting in her life. And the
Mhm.
reason I bring that up is because you can decide anything. Like, just change your name. Like, just if you don't like it, change it. And I cannot stress this enough. If you do not like what you do, change it. If you do not like who you are, change it. If you do not like where you live, change it. Because I guarantee you are thinking way too much about it, and the thinking is making you miserable.
100%. And I wanna also add to that story, when you told me that, I was like, "I absolutely would never do that, that's fucking insane."
Oh yeah.
And the irony of that entire conversation to then fast forward to May when I went to a retreat and then so many things got, like, just unfolded in my life, and now I'm Sasha. Like, it's just, like, so perfect that you were actually the fucking seed, the inception of this entire identity shift because we all hold a frequency, and a frequency is attached to your name.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but yeah, choose, and I think that's something that I have Aries and Venus, which Lindsay, and I'm also impatient. And so when I see people just struggling with themselves and creating these stories that actually don't even exist in their reality, I mean, it
Mhm.
exists in the reality because they created it. But I'm like, change the fucking story. Like, let's
Yeah.
reframe the actual facts here and stop coming from this
Yes.
place of all of this emotion. Like, that is actually contracting everything that you want to come to you. And we haven't hopped on into this topic yet, but Lyndsay teaches manifestation as well.
Mm.
And you ran that magnetic course. And do you have any? I feel like you have such good insights and perspective on like these reframes. So if one thing you could take away from that, what would you share with people about manifestation or perspective choice?
Okay. The first thing that I would say is maybe you don't actually have a block. You just are obsessed with thinking you have a block.
Sorry, that's so
Like,
funny.
I think especially women in the self development world, the woo woo world, whatever we want to call it, entrepreneurs, very obsessed with thinking they have a block. You have a block because you think you have a block. Okay.
Why do you think we're obsessed with that?
Because I think people are using excuses to not take massive action. And what I mean by massive action is consistently doing shit outside of your wheelhouse, getting better, throwing spaghetti at the wall, saying yes, going for it, diving in. Essentially, what I'm saying is stop using your brain and so much and use your heart. This is a really important, and this does connect with manifestation because it's a very important energy. What women do not understand is that thinking is inherently very masculine and feeling is feminine. And when we are thinking, I'm not saying don't think and go be fucking dumb. I'm just saying
Valid.
like we have been pulled out of our hearts and out of our feeling bodies so much because of the world we live in. We live in a patriarchy. We live in capitalism. We live in all of these things that are factual out there in the world because we've all decided to show up at this time on this timeline. So we chose it. We chose that money would be the currency. We chose to be in patriarchy. We chose all of these things. And so what we have to understand is that we chose to also fight back against that. And what that means is you must start using your feeling body more than your thinking brain. And when we pull ourselves into feminine energy, we become deeply magnetic, almost without even trying. Obviously, it takes practice and there's all these things, but being magnetic really is about allowing yourself to be pulled into the feminine more than you're trying to like make things happen in the masculine. Now, I will say that one cannot exist without the other. So you can't just like fucking meditate on a pillow and hope that $1 million comes to you. Like you actually have to do the thing, but you have to do the thing by just doing the thing. Stop thinking about the thing, just do the thing.
Yeah. And I actually love that you're bringing this up, the mind versus feelings part, because in human design as well, like human design can get so heady and so dogmatic. And it's
Mhm.
actually about our body, about the feminine, about the how we actually move in the world that's not creating force, right? And so I
Yes.
just love that it's like, yeah, it's like how can we, and that's why they use feelings as these like not self or your signature self, the feelings. It's like get back into your body because as soon as you're in your mind, you're out of like your authenticity, right? The highest form of your like energetic alignment. So I
Mm,
love that even
actually,
translates to manifestation as well.
y- yeah, I've never actually thought about the not self themes being feelings. That's so cool. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, now I'm like, "Oh, that's obvious," but I didn't know that, and now really understanding that if you are a person who uses human design in your life and your business, then you actually just got, like, a green flag permission slip to feel more rather than think, right? And I think one of the other things that I could say about, being, magnetic and manifesting is this idea of presence over performance. So I think we live in a world that's really obsessed with performing, and that's okay. but it's not going to get you very far in the long run. I don't think it's very sustainable. The most magnetic people on the planet are magnetic because they're deeply present, not because they're performing.
Mhm.
And so if you want to get what you want faster, you need to learn the art of presence instead of the art of performance.
I literally couldn't agree more. I cannot sit down and talk to someone who is checking their phone or like asking very surface level questions. I am a projector, so that makes sense. But to your point, it is so magnetic when you're literally have someone who's going to listen to you. It's insane.
Yeah. And this also goes for the way that I could translate this into a business sense is if you run your business on social media, start playing around with the idea of showing up in presence versus showing up in performance. A way that you could do that is to follow what feels really fun for you to create versus what you feel like you have to create. And then notice the difference in the energetics. And then what you need to do first is to understand what it feels like and what feels good for you and what feels fun for you and enlivening. And then from there, apply strategy. But
Mhm.
what we do in this world so much is we try to apply strategy before getting into the meat of the thing, right? Into the feelings, into the understanding, into the embodiment. Like we go straight to strategy instead of embodiment. And then it's like, what the fuck? Your body's like back there, which your body holds all of your understanding, by the way. And so it's like, if your body is back there and you're trying to create something, it's like you're just this like floating head of performance. And that's not, nobody wants to be around that. So
I
I think
and
also, yeah, go.
Well, I mean, people are always going to remember how you make them feel. And in order to make them feel, you must be embodied in yourself first. Right. And so it's like I can give you strategy. I can give you strategy all day long and I can give you key performance, all the things. At the end of the day, if your body is not on board and your stories are running the show, you're never going to do it anyways. So what's the point? So why don't we just stop making everything so goddamn serious and
Yeah.
play? It's literally social fucking media. It's meant to be playful. Playful.
Yeah.
Go play, people.
Yeah, I mean, I think people, speaking into social media for just a hot second, because, when I got on social media was pre 2015. I don't, I was of the group of people who had when you had to have a college email address to join Facebook. But in terms of, any type of social media, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, when we're speaking into social media, when it comes to building a brand, building a business, there's really, there's two things that I want to say is a personal brand. I always say that a personal brand is you, but it's not about you. It's about the person who sees what's possible in their life through you. So it isn't a personal brand isn't look at me, all the things I'm doing. It's more so how am I going to translate this as a reflection for other people? Because other people, I get DMs all the time with people telling me they want my life. And respectfully, my answer is you don't want my life. You want your version of my life. I guarantee you don't want my life. I mean, some people might, but like for the most part, you don't want my life. You want your own version of my life. And so what you have to understand is that you're already 80% there because you are a brand already. You just kind of have to like form and package it. But when you understand that your brand is about other people, oh my God, you become so powerful and so magnetic immediately. And then the second thing that I always say about a personal brand is that you get really good at personal branding when people think they know everything about their life, but really they know like 0.01%. And the way that you do that is I always say, I am no different in person than I am online. I'm like truly the same person. However,
Agree.
thank you. The the internet gets a very specific portion of my life. And this is where people get really obsessed with authenticity. well, don't I have to show up? I should show up. I should show this. This is really hard. This is going on in my life. No, you fucking don't. You get to choose what you put on the internet and what you don't.
Mhm.
However, whatever you choose to put on the internet, that is your choice. Whatever you choose to put it on the internet. Now, with whatever you choose, you must make a commitment to yourself to be authentic in it. And that's a vast difference between that and like showing your whole life. Nobody wants to see my whole life. Oh my God, it's so boring. Like, no,
We
you
like to
want to
rest.
see this, like, you want to see snippets of my life. But if I showed you my whole life, you'd be like, unfollow.
Well, I do like my day Instagram like photo, and then I list out all the things that I do, and people are like, "Oh my god, you're so busy, you do all these things," and I'm like, "Yeah," and then when I don't post that, I'm literally napping, so I don't like, I don't know.
I think
Um,
women, I think the moral of the story there is women really need to give themselves permission to be whoever the fuck they want to be in life
Mhm.
and on the internet.
100%. I think, yeah, something that really drives me is like we just need more of you in the world and less of these like copy and paste versions of who you think that you should be. Because
Mhm.
again, I think it always comes down to choice. It always comes down to your authenticity in the world. And it's like if you can't even accept who you are, then how can other people accept you for you?
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
So we're going to start wrapping up this episode. Two questions for you. What are you deeply passionate about creating right now? What are some
Right
projects that
now,
you're passionate yeah, what are some projects that you are, like, so excited to put out into the world right now or in the next few
dude.
months?
This is a really cool question because my brand, like I said, has been fully monetized since 2018, and it's been fully monetized by a high ticket product since 2020. So that's like we're going on 5-6 years of like fully in the 100% online space. I make commissions anywhere between 350 and $6,000. So
Mhm,
that really pays for my life. This is very important to say because when I'm coaching women, I really like it's very important for women to create a sense of stability and safety in their lives. And so I monetized my brand with a high ticket offer so that that could pay for things so that I could do other things. Now, in some years that's gone super well and been great. In other years, like when I lost my mother unexpectedly, it was a dip in my income, but it still supported me. So because I created that, now I have room to play with other things. And I have always really, really wanted to create. I'm obsessed with this idea of like merch and hoodies and sweatshirts and like swag and a physical item. So let's just say that there's a physical item coming into the world that I think has the potential to grow really big, but honestly, I would create it even if my like 10 friends bought it.
I know what the product is, and I am stoked about it. Lindsay's been talking about creating merch for, I don't know, ever since I met her, so, like, 4 or 5 years ago. So it's really cool that I also get to support you in bringing that to life. So TBD, we'll link that once those are live in the world.
Also,
And then
I'm
I actually
on purpose not saying what it is. I'm not trying to be gatekeepy. I'm like literally in the process of trademarking the name. So I'm just trying to not put it out into the world until that happens. So I promise you, I'm like the last person that's going to gatekeep. And you will know when it comes into the world, honeys, you will fucking know.
you will want this on your body. Okay, so I actually have 2 more questions for you. The second one is, we didn't get into this on this podcast, maybe we'll dive deeper into it, but I'm curious, what is your zone of joy? And what does zone of joy mean to you?
Oh man. So many people I think t- tell themselves that they are not creative or they're not an artist. And I never used to call myself an artist because I kind of also had that pinned down as like, well, somebody's going to ask me if I like fucking paint or if I, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I am an artist through and through. All I ever want to do, I have said this for as long as I can remember. My goal in life is to make cool shit with people I love. And that to me just really means continuing to create what comes up, even if it's like out of my wheelhouse. The thing I'm creating right now, I don't know how to create it like at all, but there's other people who know how to create it, and there's other people I can ask to be on board and learn from and whatnot. So I would say one thing that is in my zone of joy is to continually create. And the other part of my zone of joy is to mentor and facilitate growth for women. I absolutely love it. Love, love, love it. I don't always have open one-on-one coaching spots, but there's always kind of one way or another that women can work with me. But really what I love doing is having deep conversations with women who help them turn their joy back on and get into their zone of genius and their zone of joy. And that is so, so, so fun for me.
Yeah, and I love that you use zone of joy too. Again, because of just the frequency that word holds and that expression in the world holds. Because if we're creating from there, I say authenticity, but joy is really close to authenticity, which is one of the highest frequencies. So if we're
Mhm.
actually creating from our joy, imagine what the world is that we get to create: the services, the
Mhm.
products, the teams, the businesses, right? And that
Mhm.
just creates the entire ripple effect of impact, really.
And like remember that when you are creating from your zone of joy, the answers to the questions will become clear. Like again, I haven't even mentioned the other product that I'm creating. I'm creating two different products that I know nothing about. And I'm still going after it because it is my zone of joy. And I trust that in my zone of joy, I will figure it out. And that's really important to remember.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think sometimes as women too, we forget how capable we really are and how resilient we really are.
Yeah.
I love that. Do I know the second product?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. TBA.
It's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm
I'm
not.
like, wait, which one? We talk about so many. Okay. And then if I were to really, really know you, what would I need to know about you?
Hmm. If you were to really know me, what would you know about me? I think, well, I actually am going to start with something that my closest people reflect back to me that I didn't really know about myself for a long time is if you really knew me, what you would know about me is that I am like the deepest, most loyal, biggest hype person for my people ever. And I honestly didn't really know that for a long time until it was pointed out to me because to me it's just sort of who I am. It's like it comes naturally to me, right? And I think our biggest gifts that we are here to give the world are also the things that feel the most obvious to us, and that is why we don't actually like know that they're a thing really is because they're so obvious to us. And I think that I am such a fucking stand for my friends and my people that I hope that my friends go to sleep at night thinking if I lost everything tomorrow, at least I knew that like I I could find help in Lindsay. Like I could sleep on her couch or she would give me her fucking credit card or she would like make it work or she would connect me with the right person or she would just be there so that I could cry. Like that's what I pray my people feel about me, and I think that people who really know me know that about me.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 10-10 recommend. 10
10-10.
10-10, 110.
Also, I
Um,
guess the other thing would be that I'm like so committed to living a life of experience that I'm like getting the whole group chat financially free. Like, it is zero fun to be rich by yourself. Like, I have had like years and years where I've done really well, and then I didn't really have a lot of people to celebrate with because all of my friends were brokies, and like, it's not that fun. And I just think that like my whole entire fucking mission in this life is to like set the group chat free.
Brokies, I love that. Yeah, I actually think that's my mission too. Lyndsay's supposed to take me to Paris, so that's gonna happen in 2026.
Supposed to.
I claim it.
Definitely. We're definitely doing it.
When we book the tickets. When we book the tickets.
When we
I
book
love
the
it.
tickets,
Okay.
it's happening.
Okay, the last thing, we're gonna wrap this up. Where can people connect with you? What are the
Ooh.
things? What are the links?
Come into my silly little world on Instagram. That's honestly where I am most of the time. I don't even have a TikTok. I literally deleted it. And yeah, so Instagram is the place to find me. It's just at Lyndsay Lee, my name, LYNDSAYLEE. Come say hi to me. If you listen to this episode, please DM me and tell me you listened to it, or like shout me out on your stories or something, because I love nothing more than women being fucking women. So I want to say hi. And then also in the show notes of this episode and the link in my bio, you can grab my free tools, which is a bundle of 2 things that will help you with your personal brand. Whether you already have one or not, these 2 tools will help you get more clear on your personal brand, and maybe where to start or how to refine, and then how to move forward in terms of like monetization.
Incredible. Thank you so much for being on the pod. You're the first guest, and I think that went well.
Yay! Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, everybody, for listening. If you're here to the end, I love you. Girls for President forever. Bye.